One of the things that I value most about The Chosen is that it does a very good job of providing the backstory to events that are described in the gospel. If you've seen the healing or the raising of Jairus' daughter from the dead in The Chosen, you will know that Jairus' entire livelihood, his whole business, was wrapped up around temple activity. And all of the people who worked at the temple and who made the decisions about buying things from Jairus wanted absolutely nothing to do with this rogue preacher, a carpenter from Nazareth of all places. But then Jairus' daughter falls ill. And Jairus knows the stories that he has heard. And he is willing finally to put all of his livelihood at risk of losing everything in order that his daughter might be saved. And he goes to Jesus in full belief. If you will come, my daughter is going to be okay. And there is a very large crowd gathered. Because again, they're all in anticipation of what Jesus is going to do next. And to put it in terms that we can understand a little bit better, imagine that the funeral mass is already started. The music ministry is already singing. The procession is already on its way into the church. And all of a sudden, someone comes in and says, "Why are you guys holding a funeral? She's not dead." And then the little girl sits up from inside the coffin and asks for a sandwich. This was the great dilemma that many people of the first century faced. Well, first of all, I can't deny what I saw. The rabbi who was there overseeing the ritual regarding Jairus' daughter's death knew that she was dead. And yet, Jesus goes into her room with his 3 apostles alone and comes out and tells us to stop what we're doing. And then I saw her sitting up in bed asking for something to eat. And I cannot deny what I saw. However, to acknowledge Jesus for being who he says he is means I am going to lose everything. And this was the great axis among the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin in particular. And all of them are doing their own discernment. Am I willing to risk it all? Am I willing to give up everything in order to acknowledge the truth of what I have seen and heard in Jesus? And all of the ones, that was the problem. There's no middle ground. You can't say, well, Jesus is sort of who he says he is, or he's like who he says he is. Jesus is either who he says he is, or he's a complete lunatic and a liar. And that's where a vast number of people in the world today find themselves stuck. Well, but if I acknowledge that Jesus really is who he says he is, I'm going to lose a lot. And I don't think I want to give it all up. And so, thus the world is divided between the ones who acknowledge that Jesus is who he says he is. And yes, I will seek control of my life. I will choose to conform myself to God, regardless of what the cost to me is. or I will conspire to nail him to that cross and to kill him myself. And that is the true majesty of God's love. I mean, yes, he created the world and he declared it good. And in spite of all of the claims otherwise, yes, this is a good world because it's God's world. But the real majesty of God's love is that even when we reject him, even when we deny him, he still offers us hope. He still stands waiting for a sincere and hopeful heart to come to him and to say, I acknowledge, Lord, that I have done much to offend you, to reject you. And I'm so sorry for all of those things that I stand here committed to whatever real change in my life brings me to conformance and community and intimacy with you. Because, like St. Augustine, I recognize, Lord, that my heart will always be restless. My life will never be comprehensible until I do that. And I can't live with the craziness anymore. I can't live with the anxiety anymore. I can't live with the shame and the regret and the depression and the despair anymore. And so whatever the world brings me, Lord, whether I am rich or I am poor, whether I'm a success or a failure, whether I am sick or I am well, and yes, Lord, in a moment that only you know, and in a manner that only you know, may even my death bring honor and glory to you, that I might be restored to that original measure, to that original dignity, to that original integrity, to that original wholeness, to that original intimacy, to that original peace, that original love with which you made me. It is my only real hope. And it is my only real desire. And so let's repeat it again. Jesus, I know that you love me. Jesus, I know that you died to save me. Jesus, I know that you're with me now to set me free in a way that I have never been free before.